The State Department says there's no timeline for military forces to withdraw from Syria. That comes after President Trump announced a withdrawal of U.S. troops from both Syria and Afghanistan. Good evening, I'm David Nelson.
And I'm Sharon DeRick. Here at home, soldiers are calling on the Department of Veteran Affairs to do more to prevent our troops from becoming a statistic. According to the VA, every day 20 soldiers die by suicide. KWQC Sarah Jones spoke with the VA and the friends and family of a QCA soldier who took his own life.
A recent report by the U.S. Government Accountability Office, also known as the GAO, says the VA needs to do more when it comes to suicide prevention media outreach. It says even though the VA had a budget of $6.2 million for paid media outreach, it only spent $57,000. That's less than 1%. The GAO says the VA has made a limited effort in its suicide prevention outreach in both 2017 and 2018. And while many soldiers say the VA provides some benefits, they say suicide prevention is a life or death matter that needs to be given more attention, especially in the years to come.
Many soldiers say it's hard to explain what being in a combat mindset is like.
I will maintain my weapons, my arms, and myself, and watch out for my teammates.
It's the type of hyper-alertness you need to survive. Sergeant Breck says one of the most challenging things post-deployment is letting go of that alertness.
For the guy who just comes back from his deployment and goes to the farmer's market, he can't browse and shop. He's going to meticulously recon basically every single person he sees.
But it's not just letting go of the hypervigilance.
I feel like they went and did something, they came back, and I can say this because I've been there, they feel worthless because they feel like the tools or skills that they acquired while they were overseas, especially if they were combat related, have no application in the real world over here.
And that was the most difficult part of watching Brandon come home.
It was just, very hard to see the change in him. It was just very hard for him to adapt, not being in the military anymore. And if he could have stayed in the military, he would have. But because of his problems when he was hurt, he had no choice.
Brandon and Paul had deployed to Afghanistan together.
It's not until it happens to somebody close to you that you realize, like, oh, this is a real thing that happened. Brandon wasn't the only suicide from the 2010 deployment.
Brandon had served in both Afghanistan and Iraq. He was 33 when he took his own life in July of 2016, a day after he was denied inpatient treatment, which he requested from the VA. That year, the VA developed its highest amount of social media content for suicide prevention in the last 5 years.
There's nothing more haunting than realizing, something could have been done and something wasn't done.
The U.S. Government Office of Accountability says the VHA had a $6.2 million budget obligated for suicide prevention paid media, but it spent less than 1% of it.
It doesn't make any sense. If they have the money, I don't really have any words for that.
It just makes me angry knowing that you're given money and on such an important issue and you're not doing the work to get the word out.
KWQC reached out to the Department of Veteran Affairs, and they say, quote, VA suicide prevention outreach dropped significantly, and the Suicide Prevention Office had no permanent leader for nearly 9 months. Suicide prevention is the VA's highest clinical priority. We accept the GAO's recommendation to do more to evaluate the effectiveness of the suicide prevention media outreach campaign.
There never should have been a lapse happening in the first place.
It makes me think like the team tried, but it just wasn't successful as, working without a lead.
I know plenty of veterans who would have happily filled that spot.
The VHA's executive in charge, Dr. Steve Lieberman, told KWQC that this year he's making sure that the VHA is spending 100% of the funding and that he's reviewing the budget monthly and making sure that everything moves forward.
If you or someone you know is feeling suicidal, a veteran or not, you can contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255 and press 1. You can also send a text message to 838-255.